So Noctua has a new fan, this thing, the A12x25 PWM. That's available in 3 different variants. I've got all 3, and actually, I even ordered an extra one. Noctua sent me these to test because I was like, hey, I've got my workstation, which we'll learn more about in a second, and it's kind of loud sometimes, but it's a Threadripper, so got any ideas for me? And they said, well, we've got some new fans, we'll send you the new fans. And it turns out they're actually pretty good. So I picked up another few fans from Newegg to put in my Threadripper system running at 4.1 gigahertz, which is a little bit of an overclock, a little bit of heat. So let's dive in and take a look. All right, so first up, the system. What are we working with? This is in the Lee PC011. This is the one that's designed for water cooling, and I guess most people would probably do a custom loop water cooler or something like that. I've got the Intermax LickTech 360, which is, you know, a TR4 designed cooler. The hot plate covers the whole thing. And with that cooler, I find that, you know, all core overclocks with Threadripper just a little bit easier, because you can dump a ton of power into Threadripper. It gets crazy hot. The one problem is when the system is under load, it does get kind of loud. And my system's on my desk, I'm doing some hacking on Thunderbolt, getting Thunderbolt working on Threadripper. Turns out that's probably not gonna be a thing because Intel, but that's gonna be in a different video. But yeah, Alpine Ridge, timing interface to the motherboard, it's a thing. This is the Gigabyte Designator X399, which I'm using for that project. Got 32 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z, Samsung VDI DDR4 3200 running this thing. Right now, I've got a Strix Fury in here, an Asus Strix Fury, but I've also got the Vega 64, and just for giggles, a 690, a GTX 690 that a fan sent me, which is actually 2 680s on one card. So thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. Got my 500 gigabyte Intel Optane in here because, again, developer station and compiling things goes really fast with that. You can kind of see I've already got one Noctua cooler here in the bottom, which helped my temperatures a lot because it was bringing cold air in from the bottom. So, you know, it's sort of the flesh tone color, which maybe doesn't go with the rest of the color scheme, but I do have some 120 millimeter that are the two-tone gray, which I think will probably go pretty well with this build. Now, this whole system is also powered by a Seasonic 1000 watt power supply, which gives me all the power I need to run whatever configuration of hardware I need for whatever particular project I'm hacking on today. Now, subjectively, what are my thoughts so far? Well, first off, inside the flap on every fan and also on the Noctua website, they actually publish the figures for their fans for how much airflow, cubic meters per hour, and the static pressure that you can expect for the different models at the different RPMs depending on how it goes. And so you may be thinking, well, wait, there's 3 different models. Well, there's a 3-pin and a 4-pin version of the new, you can visually tell the new fan. There's 3 different versions, 2 4-pin versions and 1 3-pin version. There's one 4-pin version that is extra low noise, and then there's a 3-pin version, so that's DC instead of PWM for speed control. The ultra low noise version comes with an ultra low noise adapter that you can use in line with your 4-pin adapter. So one of the reasons that Noctua says this 120 millimeter fan can perform as good as a 140 millimeter fan is because of the clearance. The fan blades and the fan hub are insanely close. It's like a 0.5 millimeter clearance. And because of that, less air can escape around the edges of the fan. So whatever pressure this fan creates is not lost to that gap. And so they actually sell 120 to 140 adapters that you can use. So if you've got like a 280 millimeter closed loop cooler, you can use these adapters to mount your 120 millimeter fan on your 140 millimeter closed loop radiator while keeping an air seal. So you maintain the air pressure. That's what this does. And you get 2 of them to a box and some sound dampening rubber mounter things. These are brown. These are also available in different colors. You can get red, green, blue, black, white, whatever. Same with the rubberized colors. You get these Chromax things that you can get. So like here's a box of red ones. So it can go with your color scheme. You can mix and match colors. It's a thing. You can get colored Noctua fans. It's totally a thing. In my case, the brown ones aren't gonna bother me because as you can see, all you see is radiator on this side. The brown fans are gonna be on the other side. You can't see it, it's inside the case. So who cares what color it is? If you're worried about the gasket seal of the fan, so like the little rubber, maybe the little gap that these rubber corners create is not great. So what's the thing that set me on this quest? This change. Why would I even bother changing it? It's fine. A fan's a fan. As long as the fan's keeping it cool, it doesn't matter, right? For a lot of people, I'd say that's true. I mean, I'd say that's fair. The Noctua stuff, it's expensive. It really is, and there's no way around it. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good product, that it's not exactly what it says it is. I don't think that there's any real, like in the testing that I've done in terms of like the claims that Noctua makes, seems accurate, which is impressive to the level of engineering that have gone into their fans. I mean, that is actually honestly very impressive. Do most people need that? A lot of people don't need that. But I kind of wanted it because this is a really high-end system. It's expensive. I've put a lot of money into it. I use this to earn more money and do stuff and work on things and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's like, well, it's kind of annoying sometimes. But this was the thing that was driving me crazy. So I've started to load on that. Can you hear it? It's starting to take off. It'll get quite a bit louder. The Intermax Slick Tech fans, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad fans. They're actually pretty good, especially for being, you know, bundled with a closed loop cooler, because most of the money, most of the budget for that is going to go into the pump and the engineering and all the other stuff. The fans in that are actually pretty good. If you have this problem with your system, the first place I would suggest you go is not to buy new fans, it's to go into the UEFI and adjust your fan profile curves. If you heard, the fan speed sort of slowly ramped up over about 5 or 6 seconds. By default, I think the fan speed sort of ramps up over 1 second, and so it can be really super annoying if your machine goes from like quiet to chainsaw to quiet to chainsaw to quiet to chainsaw over the period of a second. It's much, much less annoying, trust me, with the fan profile curve set to ramp up over 5 seconds. But then you think back and it's like, well, you know, when Threadripper launched and blah, 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 there was this temperature offset thing over the previous, and now you know why. The temperature offset is to give you some headroom in terms of when the processor needs more cooling and when the fans actually take off, because there's an inertia there. And so I've made the inertia much worse by going from 1 second to 5 seconds. But with a big giant closed loop cooler, you know, maybe it doesn't matter as much because you've got that thermal response time in all of the liquid and all of the radiator that goes with the cooler. So unlike a tower cooler, because like a tower cooler will get really hot really fast, then the fans ramp up and do stuff. Well, with a liquid cooler, it's gonna take a long time of the computer running at a really high speed for the heat to soak into the radiator and to soak into the whole cooling mechanism. So in that light, 7 seconds is really not like a terrible context. Like, that's really not terrible for what's going on. It just depends on the cooling. So before you buy fans, go to UEFI and adjust your fan curves first. And that's a little different from UEFI to UEFI, but pretty much all boards, whether you're, you know, Team Red or Team Blue, have that fan curve adjustment thing in UEFI, at least all the enthusiast boards. The lower end boards, not so much. Now for my own experiments, I've got one of each kind of fan installed. I think in this scenario, I would recommend just get the PWM or possibly the ultra low noise version. Maybe for my use case, ultra low noise. Maybe I jumped the gun, already ordering another PWM on Newegg, but I figure with the ultra low, or it's got a bundled low noise adapter, and you know, going down to 1700 RPM with the low noise adapter and then still having fan control on the motherboard, I think PWM is going to be fine for me. All right, so this is just my first boot with only the radiator fans installed. I've removed all of the other fans, and I'm running the stress test. It is shockingly quieter. Putting my hand in front of the radiator, it feels, I mean, I can feel a lot of airflow flowing through the radiator, and I can hear the fans are on. Now again, it's worth noting that the old Intermax fans, they're pretty good fans. They're 500 to 2300 RPM fans, and they're manufactured with pretty tight tolerances as well. They've got, rubber sound dampening things in the corners. There's, the baffle doesn't get quite as close around the outside edges, but the fan blades are pretty close to the outside edges. You can see a little bit of wobble, when you move the fan around and that sort of thing, but it's shocking how much quieter the Noctua fans are at a similar RPM. In the fan monitoring software, when these fans were ramping up, they were still only ramping up around 1700 RPM. And at 2000 RPM, the FLX fan is quieter than the Intermax fan at around 1600 RPM, which is, that's, Noctua has done it again. I can't believe it. I'm recommending fans that look like this. Now again, I don't think these are everybody. You're not gonna build a Ryzen 5 with Vega and then spend, a couple of $100s on fans. But if you're spending $5,000 on a workstation like this one, it may be worth considering. Now, not just the new, the new fans. We've also got these available in black and two-tone gray, and they're sort of different depending on what you want to do. I'm gonna mount these in there as well. Now this is a 1200 RPM fan, so this is gonna be quieter as well. 120 millimeter. I've got enough room to mount 3 in the top. Probably just gonna mount 2 in the top for now. Gets a little close with the hoses, and I'm gonna put a 120 millimeter one in the bottom. Maybe I'll put a black one in the bottom, or possibly maybe one of my old Intermax fans. I'm not sure. I've got enough of the two tones, and I've got one black one from another project, so I think I've got enough Noctua fans to really finish this out. So I think I'm gonna go for now. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and if you wanna build a system like this, come to the Level 1 forums and we'll go over the parts. Remember, Gigabyte Designator motherboard, G.Skill Trident Z memory, whatever video card you need to do your stuff. We've got the Intermax Lictech cooler, Seasonic 1000 watt power supply. I'm using an Optane. Optane's overpriced. Don't know that I would recommend it unless you're a developer and you just want things to go fast. But beyond that, your mileage may vary. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out. I'll see you in the Level 1 forums.